What if I told you the Chicago Bears are currently weighing a move so massive, it would instantly transform them into a top 5 defensive unit in the NFC? We know the pass rush has been a glaring weakness, but the conversations happening behind closed doors at Halas Hall suggest Ryan Poles is looking to fix that with a generational talent. The stakes have never been higher for this front office as they navigate a dangerous division filled with elite quarterbacks. But is this potential blockbuster trade a dream or a looming reality that could bankrupt the team's future draft capital? Max Crosby is the name on everyone's lips right now, and for very good reason. The Las Vegas Raiders superstar is being urged by league analysts to seek a trade to the Chicago Bears, a move that would pair him with one of the most feared units in football. While the Raiders have publicly tried to maintain a facade of stability, sources indicate that Crosby's frustration with constant losing is reaching a boiling point. The Bears only managed 35 sacks last season, a statistic that simply won't cut it in a division where you face high-flying offenses every single week. Chicago is staring at a 2026 draft class where they will likely look for edge help, but the window to win is opening right now, and a veteran presence might be the only way to capitalize. Montez Sweat has been a revelation for this defense since his arrival, but the void on the opposite side remains a massive concern. Dayo Odeyingbo was supposed to be the answer, but his injury history and underwhelming production in 2025 have left the coaching staff searching for alternatives. We have seen this story before where a star player becomes available, but the Raiders' situation is unique because they are entering a deep rebuild that might outlast Crosby's prime years. He is approaching 29, and for a defensive end of his caliber, every season spent on a losing team is a wasted year of greatness. Ryan Poles has already admitted that the Bears were involved in the dialogue during previous trade windows, monitoring the situation closely to see if the resources aligned. The league knows the Bears have a desperate need, and Garrett Padell of CBS Sports has officially linked Chicago as a top destination for the 5-time Pro Bowler. Imagine a defensive front where opposing offensive lines have to account for 2 elite pass rushers simultaneously. The pressure would be relentless, and the secondary would suddenly find life much easier with less time for quarterbacks to scan the field. However, there is a dark cloud hanging over this potential deal that involves a failed trade with the Baltimore Ravens that fell through at the 11th hour. If the Ravens saw something they didn't like in the medical reports, should the Bears be wary of pulling the trigger on such a high-stakes gamble for their future? Does adding a superstar like Max Crosby make the Bears immediate Super Bowl contenders, or is the price in draft picks simply too high for Ryan Poles to pay? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below because this move could define the franchise for years. Make sure to subscribe and hit that like button to stay updated. Montez Sweat is currently the undisputed anchor of this defensive line, but he desperately needs a partner in crime to reach his full potential. Since arriving in Chicago, Sweat has shown he can be a game changer, but the lack of a consistent threat on the other side allows teams to double-team him and neutralize our best weapon. If you put Max Crosby on the opposite edge, the schematic possibilities for Matt Eberflus become terrifying for the rest of the league. We are talking about 2 players who feed off each other's energy and production. Crosby brings a relentless, menacing force that forces quarterbacks to step up in the pocket, right into the path of Sweat. The analytics back this up perfectly, as Crosby trailed only Myles Garrett in total quarterback pressures since 2019. Think about that for a second. Even while playing on a struggling Raiders team with minimal support, he still managed 10 sacks in 15 games during the 2025 season while dealing with a lingering knee issue. The medical concern is the elephant in the room, especially after the Baltimore Ravens backed out of a deal involving 2 first-round picks due to his meniscus surgery. However, the whispers around the league suggest Baltimore simply got cold feet about the compensation and used the injury as a convenient exit strategy. Crosby himself has stated his recovery has been flawless, checking every box to be ready for the upcoming season. For the Bears, the real question is whether they can manage the cap hit and the loss of 2026 and 2027 draft picks that such a trade would require. Ryan Poles has been disciplined with his resources, but he also knows that you don't get many chances to acquire a Hall of Fame talent in his prime. The dialogue between the 2 teams has existed in the past, and as the Raiders continue their multi-year rebuild, the value of Crosby might never be higher than it is right now. If Las Vegas decides to maximize their return, Chicago has the infrastructure to make a competitive offer. The chemistry between a healthy Crosby and a dominant Sweat would be unlike anything we have seen in Chicago since the legendary defenses of the past. It is the type of move that changes the entire identity of a football team from a hopeful contender to a feared powerhouse that no one wants to see on their schedule. Looking at the technical landscape of the Chicago Bears defense, the addition of an elite edge rusher isn't just a luxury. It's a strategic necessity for the survival of the current regime. Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus have built a solid foundation, but the lack of a consistent pass rush was the primary reason the defense surrendered late-game leads last year. When you only register 35 sacks in a full season, you are essentially asking your defensive backs to cover for impossible lengths of time against the likes of Jordan Love and Jared Goff. The internal analysis at Halas Hall likely shows that while Deo Odeyingbo has potential, relying on him to be the primary bookend to Montez Sweat is a massive gamble that could backfire. By pursuing a trade for a veteran like Max Crosby, the Bears would be signaling to the entire NFL that their rebuild is officially over and they are in win-now mode. This decision would have a ripple effect across the entire roster. It would allow the linebackers to play more freely and permit the secondary to take more aggressive risks on the ball. From a salary cap perspective, the move is complicated but manageable if backloaded correctly, though it would limit future flexibility in free agency. The future of the franchise depends on whether the front office believes this specific piece is the final one needed to complete the puzzle. If they wait for the 2026 draft, they are essentially punting on the upcoming season's defensive potential, hoping a rookie can provide the same impact as a proven 5-time Pro Bowler. That is a dangerous game to play in a city where the fans are starving for a winner. We have seen Ryan Poles be aggressive before when he traded for Sweat, and that move paid dividends almost immediately. The precedent is there for a mid-season or pre-season blockbuster. The impact on the locker room would be seismic, providing a veteran leader with a relentless motor who sets the standard for every other player in the building. As we look toward the training camp horizon, the pressure on the Raiders to decide their direction will only increase. If they stumble out of the gate, the phone calls from Chicago will become much more frequent and much more lucrative. The blueprint for a dominant Chicago defense is within reach, but it requires a level of boldness that can either make a general manager a legend or cost him his job if the player's health doesn't hold up under the bright lights of Soldier Field. Ultimately, the pursuit of Max Crosby represents more than just a search for more sacks. It is about the Chicago Bears reclaiming their identity as a defensive powerhouse that dictates the flow of the game. For decades, the monsters of the Midway were defined by a terrifying pass rush that made life a nightmare for opposing quarterbacks. Right now, that identity is only half formed with Montez Sweat doing most of the heavy lifting. Bringing in a player of Crosby's caliber doesn't just improve the stats. It changes the culture and the expectations of every single person in the organization. It tells the fans that the years of mediocrity and waiting for next year are finally over. However, we cannot ignore the cost. Giving up multiple first-round picks is a move that can set a franchise back 5 years if it goes wrong. Is the reward of a dominant defense worth the risk of a depleted draft cupboard? This is the ultimate crossroads for Ryan Poles. If he makes this move and it succeeds, he becomes the architect of a new era of Bears greatness. If he passes, he risks wasting the prime years of his current stars while waiting for a rookie to develop. The window of opportunity in the NFL is notoriously short, and the Bears are currently standing right at the threshold. This isn't just about one player or one trade. It's about a statement of intent for a franchise that has been searching for its soul. The fans deserve a defense that strikes fear into the hearts of their rivals, and a Sweat-Crosby tandem would do exactly that. It would be a nightmare for the NFC North and a dream for the city of Chicago. As we move closer to the season, the whispers will only get louder and the pressure will only mount. I want to know where you stand on this. Should the Bears bet the house on Max Crosby, or should they stay patient and build through the draft? Your opinion matters, so drop a comment below and let's get the conversation started. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for the most in-depth Bears coverage and insider updates you won't find anywhere else. We are just getting started, and you won't want to miss what's coming next. This is the moment where the future of Chicago football is decided. Bear down.